All right, so let's break it down, right? So I'm just going to take Florida as a whole, okay?
Okay.
We'll take Florida as a whole. We're going to go to asset classes, and we're going to go to just all. This is how I kind of understand asset classes and transactional volumes and everything, right? So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
look in just Florida sales sold within the last 12 months. So if we look at this real quick, we see that there have been 234,000 properties that have traded in the last 12 months. Everything, every type of
Yeah.
asset class in the state of Florida. This is also small, little land parcels, everything included. Okay.
Okay, including land. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So this is everything. This is everything except for houses. Some pieces of land might be technically residential, but not houses. So what
Okay.
I'm going to look at first, like you just said, I'm going to kind of just say, okay, we want, let's just say it's probably too small, 10,000 square foot and up to 100,000 feet. We only had 4,000 properties in totality, but we really
Okay.
care more about like retail as an example, 851. If you look at shopping centers, you're really just these put together. So you're looking at maybe like 580 for you. Industrial, here you go, right? So 10,000 to 100,000 square feet, 1,137 properties sold between 10,000 and 100,000 square feet in the last 12 months in the state. Here's the cool thing, right? So then now what I care about is like, okay, well, now I want to know properties that we sold for $1 million or more, right? So $1 million or more, 729 industrial, 10,000 to 100,000 square feet. And
Yeah.
even if we just got rid of the square footage and we just said industrial that sold for $1 million or more, obviously this is going to give you, some smaller stuff in higher end areas. Anyways, if we just do $1 million or more total sale price, right? So you can make some decent money, right? We're looking at 1,709. Now, if let's just go one back farther, 500K. There you go. So this is really your market. 500,000 and above, 2.3K sold in the last 12 months. If we do the last 2 years, almost the same average, right? 4,700, that's 2,350 a year.
Yep.
If we go the last 5 years, you take this number divided by 5 and you get about the same. I think it's 25, just under that actually. It literally is almost identical. 12,
Yeah.
3,282 divided by 5 years, 2,456. So we're right on the money. So every single year about, let's just say 2,350 you're selling. Now what we're going to do here is the following. Now we're going to try to get a better understanding of who we're selling to. Okay. So now we're going to understand the owner, right? So we want somebody who owns at least 5 properties. Okay, we want to be able to get in touch with them, and we don't care. Let's say the last 2 years. And one second, owner portfolio assessed value. Let's do at least $1 million. Here you go. So this is basically now going to show us property owners, right? If you look at my filters, industrial property owners who own 5 properties or more, assessed value, portfolio assessed value is over $5 million. We have their phone number, and the last thing that they bought for a minimum of 500 grand in the last 2 years in the state of Florida. So now what we can look here is if we go to owners, I'm actually gonna do one last thing. I want to look at people only, not companies. Here you go. So what you're going to do is that you have this list. I would just look at the focus on the top 50, right? Because you have 15 pages of this. Okay. But really the top 50, I definitely would be focused on these individuals. Every you can see exactly when their last acquisition date was. So you can look at people that bought in the last 12 months, 24 months. And these are going to be the people that I would say need to become your best friends. Now, obviously, you can even sort by areas, but just to keep in mind, I would focus more on the statewide versus just in your local market, just because there's going to be a lot more opportunity. These people should become your best friends because these are going to be the people you sell the deals to. This is only half your day, right? Because if you keep calling buyers, you have nothing to sell them. So what I would recommend you do is that now that we understand how to find the buyers, right? Like you're going to plug in exactly these criteria. Right.
Yeah.
And then you hit apply and you go to owners and then you can literally export this list. You can literally just go to export. What you're going to do is the following. Now you're going to do the reverse to find the sellers. Okay. So now we're going to refresh our screen. We're going to do Florida again, state of Florida. Now what you'll do is you go to property type, industrial. We're going to go to owner. We obviously want to get a hold of them. They're probably going to be a person, not a company. Someone who owns only one, I'd say 2 or less. Owner's person includes a phone number. They own only 2 properties at the absolute most, right, or less. Sales. Now they bought it for a very low price per square foot. So I'd say 25 bucks or less, 50 bucks or less, but when they bought it and they haven't sold within the last 10 years. And now the last thing I would do is that your taxes are at least like 15,000 bucks. So like it's not like a piece of garbage. So now last thing I wanted to add right quick is that I always like to do the year built to 2000. This list, right? This 1,000 property list is who I would get in touch with. Every single one of these property owners is a good opportunity for you to make some money. Now, I want you to understand, everyone goes like, only 1,000 properties? Yeah, well, listen, 1,000 properties, and this is just industrial, just in the state of Florida. And if hypothetically you added, if you do North Carolina, same search, you only got another 200 properties, right? So now you're at 1,185. And if you included retail, if you go over here and include retail, right, we're obviously just going to get rid of auto repair shops, bars and taverns, and car washes, fast food restaurants, gas stations. So anyways, now you have 1,756, okay, between the two. So now it's like, think about it. These 1,756, I guarantee you something in the vicinity of 2 to 6% of this list here is going to trade every year. 2 to 6%. Okay. Every year is going to trade. Because if all I did was look, if I said this exact list that's sold within the last 12 months, all I changed was that instead of it selling not within the last 10 years, which is 1,756, this is your list that I would call, right? If you go to within the last 12 months, 71 properties have sold. So 71 divided by 1,750 is 4%. 4% of this entire property list is selling every year. If you go to 2 years back, look, it's 252. I mean, that's crazy. That's even double. Literally, that means the average for the last 2 years has been crazy. I mean, that's 15%. So I'm saying this is a very motivated list for you to start. And you figure out of your buyers, right? You'll stop sharing for a second. You stop, and now you understand how to pull your buyers, how to pull your sellers. And what I would tell you is that your entire process as a wholesaler, your number one goal, what makes you the most successful, quote, wholesaler in the business? You need deal flow. And the only way to get deal flow is to do what? Call, mailers, paid ads, something. You have to do lead generation for an ungodly amount of time every day. Yeah. Keep in mind that, like, you answered it yourself. The most profitable, the most important thing we can be doing as a wholesaler or even as a broker, it's the same thing, is lead generation, creating the opportunities. Point of why I showed you the buyers list is because you're going to speak to as many of them as you need to find people who will pay relatively close to market. So it doesn't mean that, market value could still, quote unquote, mean that there's 20% upside in the deal. To build a long-term relationship, and in the commercial world, it's very expensive to double close. It's very expensive. So because of that, you need to be more comfortable with the buyers you're working with, right? So like, you sometimes might want to be clear, like, listen, like, I run a wholesaling business in the market. I find a lot of good off-market deals. I know you find, you've bought a lot of properties in the last few years, and you've done very well for yourself. I want to support you in finding more properties. My niche is industrial. I see you buy a lot of industrial properties. If I were to bring you a deal, I just want to be very clear. We wholesale every single transaction, right? I'm not going to pick your pocket. You're not going to pick mine. My intention is to find you the best deals in the marketplace. Is this something that you're open to the idea of working together? So I'm not saying you need to be clear of like, hey, I'm making $500,000, but like, I just want to be right. Yeah. The clear it is like, hey, like, I want you to know any deal I bring to you, I'm wholesaling it. I like to just be upfront. Like, I want a 20-year relationship with investors. My intention is not to be rich off of one deal, right? Because I'll make more money from one person if I can sell them 30 deals, like, or 1 or 2 deals every year for the next decade, than if I make one time $300,000 on them. So it's just, I like to be a little bit more transparent. Right now, don't get me wrong. I definitely wouldn't say that, how much you're making and whatever. Like, you don't need to be that transparent. You might over time as you become friendlier and friendlier with them. But at the very beginning, like, I could tell them like, hey, I find off-market deals. That's all fine. You could use those types of word tracks. And then once you have the right, once you had maybe your second or third call with them, and just like, look, I want to be very clear with you. We wholesale every single transaction. We go into contract. We try to get all the due diligence documents ahead of time. We're not like a normal real estate broker, which doesn't get any documents and they hope and pray that you buy it, right? We're going to vet the deal and we're going to bring it to you on a silver platter. We do wholesale these transactions because there's no other way for us to be compensated. I just want to be very clear with you that that is the plan. Are you okay with that? Yes. Okay, great. My ideal is saying like, hey, if I can I capture 1% market share? Is that even realistic, right? Can I go into this market and capture 1% market share and be able to eat at a high level, like make as much money as I'd like to make, right? So if you want to make $1 million a year in a market, which is our minimum before we try to start prospecting a market. So I'll look at it and I'll say, hey, if I can do on average, let's say $100,000 a deal, I need to do at least 10 closings. So if I can't get to 1%, which is 10 out of 1,000, it's not worth it, right? Like, because it's like, if you see that there's only 300 closings, for us to make $1 million a year, we'd have to do, what is that, 5% market share almost?